Thank you for joining me today on the My Bourbon Journey Whiskey Review channel. Today we're going to be diving into the Knob Creek 15 year. So this is a newer release of theirs as of about right around the first part of July of 2020. So this was going to be one that I was hoping I'd be able to get my hands on. Haven't really found the bottle, but fortunately I was given a sample and I greatly appreciate it. Douglas Papa, thank you so much for the sample for today's review. So specifically, again, Knob Creek 15 year. This is coming in at 100 proof or 50% ABV. Mash bill, or a typical Jim Beam mash bill here, is 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley. Again, age stated as 15 years, so we know with their blends or the batching that the minimum age of the whiskeys is going to be 15 years. And the MSRP on this one is $100. So this was kind of my sticking point with this one was, is this going to really be worth that extra premium type of price, considering you can get a lot of times the single barrels that have some nice ages already to them, you know, within that $45 to $55 range. So again, this bottle specifically was $100. So typically what I do with my my videos or reviews is going to be, we'll go through the color, nose, taste, finish, all of those things, and really kind of see whether or not this whiskey is worth the $100 price point. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into the review. So color-wise, as you can see, again, you'd expect it to be that mahogany, deep kind of reddish amber type of color to it. It's a great color. So I'm not sure if they're chill filtering this one. I'm assuming they probably are with these, but again, it actually has some pretty nice oils on the glass. And again, with these aged bourbons, you know, allow these things to open up a little bit. Generally speaking, it's going to, you know, hopefully translate over to the palate and really kind of, you know, allow that whiskey to shine. So, all right, let's get into the nose. Oh, so right away, fairly sweet, like a really nice dark, deep, like berry type of nose to that. There's almost like a wet or like a dusty oak presence, which is something you'll get on these older, you know, bourbons, just because they've aged a while. That oak really kind of starts to come out a little bit in them. But this is really more specifically like that dusty type of oak presence, like an older type of whiskey is kind of what it's smelling like. Really nice, rich caramel note to it. Here comes some of that like peanut butter, that nuttiness that Jim Beam is you know, really well known for. Still some nice, really nice vanillas on it. Like a sweet cornbread. Definitely some cinnamon that's there. Even some like a slight citrus, and this is more along the lines of like an orange peel type of citrus. Definitely some black pepper that's kind of really starting to kind of mingle well with the oak presence that's there. Even a little bit of this is definitely coming from the oak, but there's a little bit of a smokiness factor to it. Definitely some of those like leathers, tobacco. So anytime you're implementing a lot of that, those kind of like, you know, deep like or aged type of whiskeys with that, you know, kind of heavy char that will be on some of these, you'll start to pull out some of that smokiness, some of the leathers, the tobaccos. And then ever so slight, maybe like a baking chocolate or baker's chocolate, not that super sweet chocolate. This really is more along the lines of that kind of like that bitter type of chocolate that you get. And I think a lot of this is just going back to the heavy oak presence. So more importantly, let's see how this one tastes. Cheers. So for me, like right away, which was something I was kind of expecting, is it's a very heavy amount of oak right away. There's a really nice, you know, rye spice that's there. Again, some of that little bit of that nuttiness factor, but it's a really heavy amount of oak on this. I wonder if, you know, with this sample, allowing it to maybe open up or you know, just sit for a while, if that will tame down some of the oak. But it's very, very oaky up front, very drying right away. There is still some of that nice like rye spice that you get, but again, it almost takes away from like trying to identify or enjoy the whiskey, because it's so heavy on the oak side that it's just kind of like oak and spice for the most part. I mean, there is still some of that like kind of underlying vanilla, caramel, but again, you got that smokiness that's kind of coming out in it. You know, maybe a light citrus, but I mean, it's really like a campfire smoke almost on it. And again, I struggle with the heavy oaks because it becomes such a dominant type of thing within the whiskey that it doesn't really allow me to enjoy whatever else the whiskey, you know, may or may not be, you know, really even offering. So. Yeah, just very, very dry. It like dries out your palate like immediately. Again, some of those vanillas, that smoky factor, there's that smokiness that's there to it. Again, slight citrus that I was getting on the nose with this. Again, this is more along the lines of an orange peel. Not super bitter or anything, but it would be more of like the actual orange portion. Maybe even a touch of like a green apple on it as well. That maybe is the little bit of the tartness that's there, combining with some of the oak. A little bit of that nuttiness there, but it's not super dominant like you'll get in a lot of the other stuff. I don't always get with the Knob Creek lineup a huge amount of nuttiness anyway for me. You know, once in a while I'll get that, but I don't get that super dominant beam type of nuttiness, more of like a roasted peanut type of note, but I'm not getting that with this. Yeah, again, a little bit of that kind of dark berry, slight bitter aspect to it. Again, that green apple. Maybe again, a hint of the baker's chocolate. Again, that bitterness, leathers, tobaccos, all those drying aspects that you get, you know, within a bourbon or a heavily oaked bourbon. If you kind of transition over to the palate, or excuse me, the finish, it's a decent finish. I mean, it's a fairly longer, medium to long finish, but again, that lingering, you know, oak and that kind of campfire oak type of presence has, for me, just kind of taken over, and doesn't, for me, again, make it overly enjoyable just because you're fighting to try to get past those two, you know, aspects of the bourbon. You know, that you've got that heavy oak, there's that campfire aspect to it, the leathers, the tobaccos, it's drying. So for me, I guess this would be, I guess, two things. If you enjoy a heavily oaked bourbon, I would say you probably would enjoy it. I think there's still a lot of those quality underlying bourbon notes, but for me, I'm having to fight too much to get through that heavy oak, that smokiness, the leather, the tobacco, the drying aspect for me, or for it to be, you know, overly enjoyable to me. So, you know, for me, is it worth $100? I say no. Now, again, that's subjective. If you want to pay $100 for it and what I've described is what fits your profile, then great, it's worth it to you. What I would do is I would probably just try to find, you know, two of the single barrel, you know, Knob Creek, maybe store picks, or even go as far as maybe getting 2 or 3 of just their standard, you know, 9-year that's recently been added back to the lineup. And I think you're gonna get a bigger bang for your buck than you will be with a $100 bottle of 100 proof bourbon. So again, that's my opinion, you know, so this wouldn't necessarily be for me. So what I'd really like to do is I'd really like to hear from everybody who has tried this, your thoughts, your experiences with it, because For me, you know, am I getting something that's different than what anybody else is getting? I don't know. This is just, you know, my opinion, and I'd love to hear from everybody regarding their experience with the Knob Creek 15-year specifically. So with that being said, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to another one of my reviews. If you'd like to help support the channel, that's greatly appreciated. You can find the link to my Patreon page down below. So again, thank you so much for your support. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those places at My Bourbon Journey. So go ahead and check those out. Remember to like and subscribe, leave comments, all of that. And remember, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.